This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Connect the Dots session. This is going to be session number 17, it looks like. This will be a fairly short one, but it's a good one. It's about the cosmic signs, we might call it, the sun and the moon and the stars, and their connection to the return of Christ. I'll not really go into all the different theories as to how it will manifest itself as far as whether it will literally shorten the days, 24-hour days, and other things about how it will affect everything when it happens. It's going to be a frightful experience. It's going to cause people to be terrified. It's part of all of creation groaning and travailing, waiting for its redemption. And so the sun and the moon and the stars are going to be convulsing. They are going to be in their own labor pains, travail, looking forward to the revealing of the sons of God, Romans 8 says, so that they can be also restored to their original condition. We don't understand a lot of that. We don't understand how sin affected other parts of the universe besides the earth and besides humans and animals, but it did in some way. And this convulsing that happened to a degree at the death of Christ, the darkness and the earthquake, the rocks crying out, um, is going to be magnified at his return. It's almost as if creation understands what is happening by its creator than humans do. And so we're just going to look at a string of verses, talks about what we call the cosmic signs. I think we'll start in one of the most classic examples, always, if possible, starting in the Old Testament, starting in the prophets. They usually lay the foundation for everything that is brought over into the New Testament. And Isaiah 13 is a real prophetic chapter. And it starts off by talking about um, verse 6, wail, for the day of the Lord is at hand. So we'll do a session on the day of the Lord. We'll do a session on at hand and soon and all that, but that's connected together right there. It will come as destruction from the Almighty, therefore all hands will be limp, every man's heart will melt, they will be afraid, pangs and sorrows. So there's that idea of travail, as in childbirth. It goes on to say that pangs and sorrows will take hold of them, they will be in pain as a woman in childbirth, they will be amazed at one another, their faces will be like flames. So a lot of times in the scriptures, this idea of uh, labor or travail before childbirth is something that every woman is familiar with, and men think they are, but only secondarily. But it's just a natural thing to compare to the great tribulation that builds up in its travail and then explodes or gives birth to the coming of Christ and the removal of the curses and the blessings of the millennial, and the joy of childbirth is going to be uh, transferred to all of creation. Then it says in verse 10 regarding the day of the Lord, verse 9 says, behold, the day of the Lord comes, cruel and both wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. He will destroy its sinners from it. For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The sun will be darkened in its going forth. The moon will not cause its light to shine. I will punish the world for its evil. So it's all connected to the day of the Lord, the coming back to destroy his enemies, to rescue his people, to set up his kingdom. This is just one aspect of it, but it's an important one. We don't understand all the ramifications of it, how it will practically work itself out. But it's just a way for the Lord to say that all of creation will be in travail, not just the human race, but uh, the creation itself is groaning and travailing, waiting for its redemption, Romans chapter 8, and it will manifest itself in a way that will cause great terror to humans on the earth. So this is a very important little passage here, verses 6 through 11 of Isaiah 13. And it goes on to say in verse 13, I will shake the heavens, and the earth will move out of its place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts in the day of his fierce anger. So a way to describe that is it's beyond just human experience. It's all of creation experience, anticipating the return of their creator, of its creator, and the setting of things right. And it's going to be quite the scene. And then in Isaiah 24, he says this down in verse 23. This whole chapter is talking about the impending judgment of the Lord upon the earth. It says in verse 19 of Isaiah 24, the earth is violently broken. The earth is split open. The earth is shaken exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. So it's building toward this cosmic signs description. And shall totter like a hut. Its transgression shall be heavy upon it. It will fall and not rise again. Verse 21, it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord will punish on high the host of exalted ones, and on the earth the kings of the earth. So all powers, all pride will come under the judgment hand of God. They will be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and will be shut up in the prison. After many days they will be punished. Then the moon will be disgraced, the sun ashamed, for the Lord of hosts will reign on Mount Zion in Jerusalem and before his elders gloriously. And chapter 25 goes on to expand on what happens after that. But again, these cosmic signs are a big part of creation having maybe a better understanding and reacting to it than what human beings do. And then we'll move over to what Brother Ezekiel has to say about this, Ezekiel chapter 32, and see what he says there in the opening of that chapter 32 and 7. We'll just read verse 7. When I put out your light, I will cover the heavens and make its stars dark. I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon shall not give her light. You know, these are the kind of verses that especially pre-tribulation rapture people like to take. There's always this time of year. This is the middle of September. And so always regarding the fall feast days, and especially if there's a blood moon involved, then all the predictors come out saying that the rapture is getting ready to happen, that it could be any day. It's always connected with the fall feast and the blood moons. And I think maybe it will be connected with the fall feast, but I don't believe in the imminent pre-tribulation timing of the rapture. I think it's going to be 7 years after that, toward the end. And but the cosmic signs are connected. Now we get to Joel, and this becomes the passage in Joel becomes very important because this is what Peter quotes on the day of Pentecost. And he says in Joel chapter 2 and verse 30, after 28 and 29 is part of what Peter quotes on the day of Pentecost. But in verse 30, I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, the moon into blood, the idea of the blood moon, before the coming and great and awesome day of the Lord. Now, what's important about this is we have a time stamp of when this happens. And it says that these cosmic signs are going to happen before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Lord. But when Jesus deals with the same subject in Matthew 24, and he gives another time stamp in verse 29, immediately after the tribulation. So after the tribulation might be immediately after the tribulation, within days. We do have that extension of days at the end of Daniel. And but it says immediately after the tribulation, and Joel, as quoted by Peter in Acts chapter 2, says that the same cosmic signs happened before the day of the Lord, because the day of the Lord is his actual return to defeat his enemies and set up his kingdom. And so we have that little short space of time that Daniel 12 talks about at the end, that is immediately after the 1260, the 42 months, 3.5 years, but before the day of the Lord is returned and all that. And there's a period of 45 days extra or 30 days extra, 1260 to 1290 to 1335, all that at the end of Daniel 12. So we have this little short space of time that Jesus says is immediately. So that could be, just a few days. Immediately after the tribulation, so immediately after the end of the 1260, but before the day of the Lord, the actual return of Christ to accomplish all he's going to do. And it could be, he could actually be here and defeating his enemies during that period of time. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. There's a lot of that shaking language used in the prophets brought over into the New Testament. And Hebrew writer chapter 12 talks about the things that cannot be shaken, which is the kingdom. But these two time stamps where Joel talks about before the day of the Lord, and Jesus says immediately after the tribulation. So that tells us a lot about the day of the Lord. It tells us a lot about the timing of the cosmic signs. It tells us a lot about that short, concentrated period of time that these cosmic signs happen. And Mark and Luke pick up on this also. Mark chapter 13, verse 24. But in those days after that tribulation, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars of heaven will fall, and the powers in the heavens shall be shaken. Then, so again, this timestamp idea. After the tribulation comes the day of the Lord, in verse 26 here, is the day of the Lord. Then they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with power and great glory. And that's when the rapture resurrection happens in verse 27. Then he will send out his angels, not before the tribulation, after the tribulation. Gather together his elect from the four winds, from the farthest part of the earth to the farthest part of heaven. And Luke also picks this up in his end times chapter, Luke 21, and we read in verse 25. And there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and on the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. So that's going to be like literal, but it's also figurative in this sense of the sea and the waves of humanity roaring. But I think if there's great earthquakes, if there's cosmic signs, there's volcanoes erupting, uh, the sea and the waves of the oceans will be roaring. And as a result of it, men's hearts failing them from fear and expectation of those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then, at that time, they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. When these things, these cosmic signs that happen at the end of the tribulation, when these things begin to happen, look up, lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. And that's when it becomes truly near. Then Acts 2, 19 and 20 is where Peter quotes Joel 2 on the day of Pentecost. So we say about Peter referencing Joel's prophecy. The Old King James starts out with that prophecy in Acts 2. This is that which Joel the prophet spoke of. And a way to look at that whole prophecy is, yes, this is that, but this is not all that. In other words, in a sense, a portion of it, maybe an Arabon down payment portion of it happened at that time. But it's easy to see that the more complete fulfillment is yet to come at the second coming of Christ. So that's one of those really important already, not yet, that is so deeply embedded in prophecy. Portions of it happen in time, and yet the greater fulfillment of it is yet in the future. And then we'll close, trying to keep this fairly short, in Revelation chapter 6, verse 12. Uh, and I looked, and when he opened the sixth seal, and the seals and the trumpets and the bowls of wrath all build on each other. They're not completely successive, but each one uh, ends approximately at the same time. The sixth seal language is clearly at the end of the tribulation, at the seventh trumpet, the sixth seal, and they all build to the same conclusion. So Revelation 6:12, I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, clearly connecting it with what Jesus said immediately after the tribulation, but before the day of the Lord. So that short, compressed period of time. And the stars of heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up. So creation is convulsing. It's right at the end of the labor pains. At the moment when a woman feels like she has no strength left and she's about to die. That's kind of the description here of what's happening in physical creation. Every mountain and island was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every freeman, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us. See, they're trying to go to the place where what's happening can kill them. Fall on us and hide us from the face of him. See, heaven is open for a space of time, and humans will actually see into heaven, Christ preparing to leave his throne on that white horse with his armies headed to the earth, and it scares the daylights out of people on the earth. And they're trying to seek death because the fear is so great. Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. They look at his face and it's full of wrath. And he's coming back to seek vengeance. And it scares them to death. For the great day of his wrath has come. That's the day of the Lord. And who is able to stand? So I hope that just by reading these one after the other with some few added comments, it helps you to see the timing of it, the severity of it, the scope of it, because the creator of the universe is returning in wrath, and his creation senses that, and they react in the same manner because it's such a traumatic event for all of creations and for human beings. So may God bless you as you consider these things.